In today's episode, we're talking about the ethics around using AI as a social media manager.
Welcome to JFDI with the two Lauras. Every week on the show, we share tips and advice to help freelancers working in the social media space. And we've been where you are, and we're still in the trenches working with clients, so we know how tricky it can be sometimes. That's why on the show today, we wanted to talk about the ethics around using AI as a social media manager. Should you use it? When do you need to disclose when you're using it? And should your clients be made aware if you're using AI? So we're going to dive straight in. Can I just start this whole episode by just raising the whole situation of people thinking that AI is here to replace social media managers? Why do people still think that? Has anyone used AI lately and realised how shit it actually is?
I know, it's funny, isn't it? There's definitely a divide in camp of some people who have kind of gone all in on it. And it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Albeit the people who've gone all in on it are still very much like, this isn't going to replace me.
Yeah.
They've got like quite a positive view on it.
And I'm not being negative. I'm not saying like it's not got its place.
No,
I totally think it's got its place.
I know, I'm not accusing you of being negative, don't worry. And then the other side of the camp is people who are kind of questioning it more, like around the ethics, around like whether we should be using it, around the copyright, around whether it's going to replace us. There's people who are more nervous about it. And I think all are valid, absolutely valid. You know, some of the people who've gone all in on it may not have given some thought to some of the things they should have thought about, a lot of which we'll kind of discuss today. Whichever side of the camp you're in, there's probably pros and cons that you've possibly not considered.
Yeah, I do feel though that you can rest easy that it's not going to come and take away your job, because like it's still pretty crap at writing copy. It still can't get a photo right without giving somebody like 6 fingers or like a couple of elbows. So, you know, let's not worry too much that it's going to take away all aspects.
I've not even tried with the whole image thing.
Oh, Laura.
Like I have with like the cartoony type things. Do you remember when I did that igloo thing?
Yeah.
Good time one spent that day playing around making images. And I think if you've got that kind of brand and that vibe, then actually you can create some really cool images. But
see, I've used the Canva AI kind of tools, and they have a tool in there. By the way, if you haven't used this, you have to go and do it. It's hilarious. They have a tool in there where you can expand a photo. So I put a photo of us in there, and it was like a square photo. I wanted it to be landscape. So I was hoping it was just going to give a bit more wall behind us type thing, you know? No. It created 2 more versions of us who were pretty scary. I totally should have sent you that photo. I'll do it again and I'll put it on social next time I do it. But definitely try that. Go and grab a photo, put it in the Canva expander and see if it brings you up another version of you. That's what you would look like if you were a robot.
That is what nightmares are made of, isn't it?
Totally. Anyway, we digress. So let's then talk about how we actually are using AI, because we're definitely not using it to create amazing photos for social media currently.
No, and we're not also, which I think is the common thing people kind of their impulse was to use it for, is to write copy.
Yeah.
We don't really use that. Admittedly, you know, sometimes I'll go on there and I'll say, I want some copy for an ad, and it will kind of give me a starting point. It kind of, and often the copy we end up using is nothing like whatever's been spat out of ChatGPT. But we don't use it for that. And I think that's what most people assume a lot of people are using it for. Don't you think?
Yes, I agree. Yeah, we don't use it for copy. Sometimes we might shove in some copy and be like, can you word this better, or can you give us a different story or a different metaphor or something like that? But it doesn't ever give us a finished product. It will spark more ideas in our minds so we can tweak what we've already written, but it doesn't give us we couldn't go in there and say, can you write us next week's Instagram post? No, it would just be terrible.
Yeah, it would be shocking.
We're definitely not doing it for that.
But what we are using it for is, weirdly, I don't think we'd have ever you know, a year ago we'd have never predicted this, but we're using it a lot more for geeky things, aren't we?
Yeah,
I think is a good summary. So just yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before, we were trying to use it to help with a very large spreadsheet to try
Yeah.
to help us kind of organise our data a little bit, which did okay, didn't it? And then my husband got involved.
Yeah, see, but that's what I mean. It's not doing the full job. We still need human input.
Exactly. But in terms of writing code for the website,
Yeah, I've used it loads for writing code for the website.
That ain't me.
Or if I've got like an embed code, for example, for a video that I'm putting on our website and it doesn't fit properly, I'll go and whack it in ChatGPT and say, what is wrong with this code? Can you fix it? And it's amazing at doing just things like that because I don't understand code. Might as well be speaking Chinese. But it's amazing for things like that. And also for writing formulas. We use Airtable a lot and you use spreadsheets more than I do, but I can't get my head around formulas. ChatGPT, just say to it, can you create me a formula for this? And it will bring you a formula for your Airtable or your Notion or your spreadsheet or whatever. And it's amazing for that sort of stuff. So I use it for that all the time.
Yeah. And I think some of that is that you've got to have an expectation, don't you? You've got to know what you're trying to achieve. Otherwise, you don't know what to ask it.
Yeah.
That's where I would struggle. It's like, I don't know the capabilities necessarily of, Airtable. So, but you do. So you can go in there and say, well, I know what I want this to do. So take me from A to get me to B.
And it's good if you've written a formula and you think, well, I'm like, why is this formula not working? And it's giving you an error code. You just chuck it in. Why is this formula not working? It will fix it for you, which really these tools should be doing themselves these days. But, they don't. So there we go. But we're also using it for things like data analysis. So not just like sorting out a spreadsheet, but actually like telling us what trends there are, what things we should be paying attention to, what's the best, what's the worst, all of that stuff. Analysing content from our socials, analysing content from competitors' socials. Like you can even just take a screen grab of someone's Instagram and be like, what are the top topics that these people are talking about? Those sorts of things. It's really good for that sort of stuff. But again, it's all like it's giving us information we can use rather than information we can just go and share on social. It's like helping us in that way.
Yeah, it's not giving us the end product. And really, it's just like Google. People will have had these thoughts years ago about Google and that Google is giving, like I remember Google came about when I was at uni. Or was it actually Google? Maybe it was Ask Jeeves. And there was all this stuff about how students were going to not do a proper dissertation because they were just going to get everything off Google. Whereas nowadays everything is just off Google. It's just an accepted tool to help people to get the information you need. But at the time, there was so much kind of concern about it. And I think probably roll on 20 years, this kind of stuff will just be stuff that we do. We won't even think about it, will we? It's just another tool to help us to get to where we want to be, whatever that result is.
Yeah, in a similar way to Google, it's like the idea generation side is great because of AI. Like that's what we all use Google for, isn't it? To get ideas of what other people are doing, what other people have said, or how it's been done in different ways in the past. And I think that's what AI is brilliant for.
Yeah, 100%.
So anyway, let's talk about then like ethics-wise. When should you disclose that you're using AI in content creation? And I feel like there's been, if you're outside of the UK, you may not have seen the whole Willy Wonka thing that happened lately, but there was a company I think they're in the north of the UK. They put on a Willy Wonka, Charlie and Chocolate Factory style event, and they used AI generated images to promote it. And the images were amazing. And the event itself, well, I mean, the memes have been amazing. The stories that have come out of it have been, if there's not a documentary on Netflix about it, then they're missing a trick. But it was basically like an empty warehouse with a couple of signs in it. People had been promised like unlimited chocolate and they were being given like 2 jelly beans. It was just a whole disaster. But that's the problem with AI, isn't it? It's really misleading. So you're buying something based on these images, whereas in actual reality, they can never be as good as those images. So is that an us problem that we should be able to look at those images and make, a decision that in our own mind that, that nothing's going to be as good as that? Or is that a marketing problem and they should be more honest in their images?
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because I think, yes, we all say you shouldn't believe everything you see on the internet, and that is so true. But, it's like things like like I book a holiday and I will go and look on social media and I will go and look at content from that hotel or that location. And, sometimes when you're scrolling quickly and you think, oh, that looks nice. And then actually when you get closer, you realise it's a CGI mock up because it's like a brand new hotel or, it's something that they've not taken down. And it does catch you off guard because you think, oh my God, that looks amazing. Whereas it's not actually a proper photo. But then I always will then go on TripAdvisor and look at the traveller photos, like where people have uploaded the proper photos. So I think there's a responsibility for everybody, really. I think marketers have a responsibility to declare when AI has been used. So it's kind of saying the reality might not actually be this accurate. But also I think we as the general public just need to be aware of it and do our due diligence where necessary. So I do think there's part and part, but I do think we as marketers have a responsibility, especially if you're, using AI to create images maybe which show a product. And I can't think of an example, but if you it's like the whole conversation about when you use models and you have that Photoshop, you've touched up the Photoshop. So if you're selling a makeup product and the person has had their face edited, that's not true, is it? And there's a lot of problems around that, and that it's that same thing. So if you're selling a makeup product and you've created an image using AI and the person happens to be holding that mascara, that's not truthful, is it? Because the image is AI. So I think we have to be very careful in those kind of instances to not mislead people.
I agree. I feel like the audience needs to have that information. You need to be open and honest and clear about whether those photos are real. But I feel like there are times when you can use AI and you don't necessarily have to disclose it. So, for example, like what you were just saying, if a product's being used in an AI shot and the product would never be used that way, for example, then of course you need to be honest and be like, this is an AI generated image. But if it's, off the top of my head, I can't think of an idea, but let's just go with a beach towel, and you are trying to take a photo of a beach towel and it's raining in England, the only way that you can make that beach towel look like it's on a sunny beach is probably with AI or Photoshop. But that is a beach towel being used in the appropriate setting. So do you then need to disclose it? It's really grey area, isn't it?
It is, because no one would put on their Instagram post, for example, this image has been edited using Photoshop, if they pick the towel up and put it from a grey Brighton beach to a Hawaiian beach. No one would put that, rightly or wrongly, but it's exactly the same. Like photoshopping an image like that is exactly the same as you using an AI generated image. And I think you're right. There are some instances where actually it doesn't matter. It's not lying. It's not changing the perception of the product. Like a beach towel, at the end of the day, we want to see it on a beach, and that I kind of think that's fine. But it's where you're implying, I guess, results from using a product.
Yeah,
that's where I think you're in kind of danger, really. And the same goes for if you've heavily photoshopped a image. You've only got to look at old Kate Middleton and her mistakes with her editing to see the people are wise to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we need to be as truthful as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that you need to disclose AI for things like coming up with ideas. No, your audience don't need to know that you came up with the idea for a post because you were using AI. They don't need to know that you're using it for things like spell check and all of that stuff. But I think if it impacts their buying decision, then I think it needs to be disclosed.
Yeah, I agree.
And what about in terms of clients? Like if you're working with a client, you're a social media manager, you're an ads manager, how much of that should they know if you're using AI? Like what do you need to disclose there?
I find this a really difficult one. Like I was showing my my client ChatGPT the other week because I was saying, you need some more blogs, and they were like, oh yeah, but we're not blog writers. And I was like, yeah, but use ChatGPT, and then you can always then edit it or get someone to proofread it or tweak it making sure that it's accurate and because they've got the product knowledge. I was like, so it would be a good start until so I was showing them how to use it and they were like, oh my God, they were like totally blown away by it. And they were like, do you use this? And I don't really for them. A couple of times I've used it from idea generation, but there's such a niche product. It's very difficult. But I think it's kind of like, I wouldn't say to a client, I use Google.
No, true.
So I don't know is the answer. I wouldn't withhold the information if they asked me, but I wouldn't be sitting there going, this is a disclaimer, I use AI. Because otherwise you'd be like, well, I use AI in all of my life. Like, does that have to say, like when I'm asking Alexa, don't want to say that out loud and everybody's let's go off.
Alexa?
No.
I've just set mine off, so that was a really bad move.
So if I'm asking
Alexa, be quiet.
Oh no, mine's doing something. So I don't, if I'm getting them to help me out with a sum which is what I generally use her for.
By the way, ChatGPT in Laura's world is a woman. In my world, it's a man called Bob.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I am now slightly leaning more towards a male because he's being
because he gives rubbish answers.
He's being quite slimy, I think, recently. So I think we've talked about this before. Like, we use AI in so much of our days.
Yeah.
Personally, professionally, without it's like ads managers. Are ads managers saying that half of an ad account now is AI? AI run. Way more than it was when I started ads 10 years ago. It's completely different. But I don't sit there and say that to my client.
Yeah.
Not because I think it changes anything. I'm not trying to say that I'm pulling the wool over their eyes, because I'm not, because it's still bloody hard work. But I think there are instances like where we've just talked about, things like if you're creating image with product placement and implications, I think they need to be aware that you probably need their approval to use them, i.e. I've generated these images showcasing that beach towel. They are AI generated. Are you happy with them? Are you happy for us to use them? More because if there is any kind of kick-off and people saying, well, that's not Brighton Beach, then they're aware of that. But I think on a day-to-day, it's like I wouldn't say to my client, oh, I'm using it for idea generation because I'm perimenopausal and my brain doesn't work.
No.
What do you think?
I agree with you. I feel like you don't need to disclose most of what you're doing. But I do have this niggling feeling in my brain that I wonder whether there should be something in our terms of business, in our contracts, that are saying that we're using AI, particularly like if, for example, let's say that your client has got blogs, right? And they give you PDF information about their products and you're then plugging that into, say, ChatGPT for ChatGPT to spit out, information, or you plug it in the data, all of that stuff. What happens if you've uploaded, and this could go for any tool, not just AI, but what happens if you've uploaded that client data into something like that and then that data gets leaked? Whose responsibility is that? Is that your responsibility because you were using the tool, or is it the client's responsibility? Do you know what I mean? So I feel like there's a grey area that I'm just not overly confident in when it comes to AI. And I just want people to have that thought as well. Like, should I be uploading this stuff to this tool? Do I have my client's permission to even upload this, for example? And if I do and something goes wrong, how will I handle that? What will happen? Will it come back on me? Am I covered? Like even insurance, is insurance covering you for AI, for example? All of these things, I just feel like we haven't questioned these things enough.
It is interesting.
Or maybe it's just me who hasn't.
No, and I think that's a really good point, especially the insurance point. And I think, you could argue that's the same with using external tools.
Yeah, totally.
If you connect your client's account to an external tool that then gets their accounts bloody shut down, or like in that example you've just given, they get their systems are hacked and there's a breach of your data or their data, including whatever data they can take from socials, for example, or their account hacked because you've ended up using a dodgy tool, all of those kind of things. You could argue that all of those things should have permission. You should be saying to your clients, and probably you're right, like in your terms and conditions, these are the third-party tools I will be using. Basically, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
To cover your back.
I think it's a good thing to be questioning in yourself on, but let's not get too hung up on it and get too stressed out. I think there's probably the answers for those sorts of things are probably out there, easy to get.
If you work, not us.
Exactly. If you work with a lawyer to write your contracts, it's just something you can go and ask them, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I do think it's something that needs to be kind of on our radar.
Yeah, I do. And I think all of this stuff, we have to have that critical thinking and not to just, like we were saying at the start, there's some people who have gone all in on this. And it's kind of okay when it's your own business. Like we've gone all in, or not all in on it, but we have like played around with it, used all the tools, tried different things. We've left ChatGPT, gone back, left again. We've had over a year now of kind of testing and trying different things. But when it comes to using it for a client, it's I think what we've really talked about today is that it highlights how much you do have to think about it, because it's their business, it's not your business, and the risks involved in that. And it's just about doing your due diligence. But I think just having open and honest conversations with clients is how these conversations need to start. Like my clients were completely clueless to it. They'd never even heard of ChatGPT. It was just not on their radar.
It's funny because we feel like living in this bubble that everyone knows what that is. But like the people living down my road, I bet there's not a single person living down my street who's ever heard of it.
Well, there was someone the other day. Who was it? I can't remember whether it was someone in my family or a friend, but they started talking about, oh, have you heard about this thing called ChatGPT? And it's like, God, where have you been for the last 18 months? And they were talking about it in a really well, apparently it's going to be able to do that, in a really worried way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the aliens are taking over the world.
But that is a good point, though, because your clients might feel like that.
And that's exactly what I mean by having these honest conversations, because I think there's the perception out there that if they do know about AI, that you're cheating by using it, and why should I pay you if you're going to cheat? So there's a whole conversation around that you just need to be honest with them. And like we've talked about today, it doesn't replace anybody. It's just another tool to use to help you and ultimately help their business.
I think the thing is as well, if we're talking to clients about AI, we don't need to be saying to them, I'm using AI. We could be saying to them, I can't think of a tool off the top of my head, but I'm using Airtable to do this, or I'm using Agora Pulse reports for this. Because I think that immediately takes away that nervousness, especially if you think about it. We're in an election year. There's going to be elections in the UK and the USA, probably all around the world. There's going to be news all about how AI is affecting these elections. And this is going to be on the news. It's going to be negative. Your clients are probably going to have, thoughts and feelings about AI because of that. So if we're having conversations about AI, if we're not referencing it as I'm using AI, but I'm using XYZ tool, I think that kind of, it takes it a step back from that whole negativity and might make them feel a bit more confident as well.
Yeah, I think we just need to just be clear, but not scare people, I think, is the
100%.
Because like we were saying, some people just don't know about it. They don't know enough about it. But it's down to you to kind of educate them if you feel it's necessary. If you want to use it. If you don't want to use it for your clients, then it doesn't really matter.
My clients in the past would never have asked me what tools I was using. And I probably would never have had a conversation about what tools I was using. But if they said to me, what tools are you using? Are you using AI, etc., then I would be totally honest with them. I think you know your clients better than we do. So just think about, those conversations that you need to have with your particular client now and moving forward. But I would love to know what everyone else thinks about this and the ethics around AI. So drop into our DMs, let us know. What are your thoughts? When do you think you should disclose it? When do you think it's okay not to? Let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, I'd really be interested to hear what people's views are on this.
Totally. So there we are. We will be back again, same time, same place next week. In the meantime, come and join our free Facebook group. We'll pop the link for that in the show notes. It's the Social Media Managers Hub. We can carry on this conversation and we will see you there. Au revoir.
Au revoir.